Hi everyone, Leah here from Lekela Music with a brand new video on a topic that many of you have been asking me for help with, and that's the whole area of piano fingering, and how to know which fingers to use on which notes, how to decide that. Good fingering can make a big difference to how easy a piece of music is to play. So I'm going to go over first of all some basic points to keep in mind, and then I'm going to show you how I go about choosing the fingering for a new piece of music. So let's get started. So why is this even a thing? Why can't you just use whatever finger happens to be on a note or happens to land there after a jump? Well, piano fingering it's all about the ergonomics, and that's just a fancy way of saying that we try to be as efficient as possible in the way we use our energy while we're playing, and we try to achieve the best possible effect while eliminating as much as we can the possibility of making mistakes. So in other words, if your hand is moving around the piano keyboard more than necessary and you're using a different finger every time you play a note, the likelihood is just higher that you'll hit a wrong note, and also that the music will be interrupted and won't flow smoothly. So good fingering allows you to move around the piano more freely, and it also helps you to avoid hand movements that could lead to mistakes and to even hand strain when you're playing. So how do we go about deciding? So, well, the music itself will often have some suggested fingering, and that brings us to our first point. So you don't actually have to use the fingering given in a piece of music if it doesn't work for you. It's usually just editorial, but even if it's the fingering provided by the composer himself or herself, you're not duty bound to use it. It's just a suggestion, and it's often a good suggestion, and it might very well work for you, but everyone's hand is different, so you can try some different options and see what you prefer. The second point to keep in mind is that fingering should ideally be worked out when you start to study a piece of music, so that you're practicing good hand movements from the beginning. And you'll be able to learn the piece that much faster then, because you're not struggling to get around the music. Point number 3, which I'm sure you've already heard from your teacher if you have one, is that once you've decided on the fingering that you're going to use in a piece of music, stick to it. Don't change it unless you have a good reason, and you could have a good reason. Like in the early stages of working on a piece, you may well decide that the fingering you settled on initially doesn't actually work as well in practice, so you might change it at that point to something that works better. But the important thing is that you don't use different fingering every time you play a piece just because you're not paying attention to where your hands are going. Initially, your practice will have to include attention to the fingering along with the notes and the rhythm, but it's worth it for the benefit of more secure playing down the road. So just go slowly enough to incorporate the fingering alongside everything else as you go along. Point number 4 is really just a consideration if you've started learning the piano and the method book you've used has really confined you to one hand position, like usually the C position, and everything you've played has just been in that one position and hasn't required you to move around the keyboard at all. If that's been your experience, then you might have come to associate a particular finger number with a particular note. So your second finger in the right hand plays D, for example. So every time you see the note D, you automatically play your second finger. Or you see finger number 2 and your brain says, oh, that's D, which is really not helpful once you've moved away from that rigid C 5-finger position. So that fourth point is just that reading the finger numbers is not a substitute for reading notes, and you shouldn't write in every finger number in a piece if you want to learn to read music. I've seen pieces of music with every single finger number written in above the note, and well, the eye just goes straight to the number, doesn't it? So you end up not seeing the music at all. So it's best not to write in too much fingering, really, just what you need to help you get through the music. And that said, if there's a note that you keep missing because you're bringing the wrong finger down, then I mean, by all means, write in a reminder of the correct finger. That's fine. You're not cheating by doing that. So point number 5 is to learn your scales and arpeggios and to practice them regularly, particularly the ones relevant to the music you're working on. Because one of the many reasons you shouldn't neglect your scales is that they help you to develop a really intuitive understanding of how to move around the piano keyboard smoothly and efficiently. So if your music is in the key of F, it's going to be useful to be able to play that scale and the associated arpeggio, because the fingering you use for the scale is going to be relevant to the piece. Point number 6 is that generally speaking, you want to avoid playing black notes with your thumb, and to a lesser extent with your little finger. So there are lots of exceptions to this rule. For example, where you're playing a number of black notes in succession, or you're playing octaves on black notes, or maybe it's the only option in a particular instance. But as a rule, if you can, try to give preference to your second, third or fourth fingers, just because they're longer fingers and they fit more comfortably onto the black notes. So for example, when you're working out the fingering for a piece of music, you might want to factor that in and adjust the fingering so that you're crossing over from your thumb onto a black note with one of your middle fingers. But actually we're going to see this in the example in a few minutes. So don't worry if you're not sure what I mean by that. Point number 7, as long as it's comfortable, don't be afraid to stretch your hand out, for notes that are spread out or to compress it in. Maybe for sequences of notes moving higher or lower. And I just say this because sometimes I see new students unsure about whether they're allowed to move their hands further than a 5-finger scale position. So for example, you're on C, D, E, F, G and wondering, well, am I allowed to move my little finger up to get that higher note or squeeze it in to move up or down? And yes, you are. As long as your movements aren't awkward or excessive, you can move in any way that your hand allows. And that works for the music. Okay, so I think that covers the basic guidelines. So what we're going to do now is to put it into practice with some actual music. And I've chosen a piece called Little Serenade by Haydn, which is about a grade 1 level, and it's a really sweet little piece. I'm going to put a link to the sheet music in the description. So I'll play it first, and then we'll go through the process of working out the fingering from scratch. Okay, so here's our music, Little Serenade, and I'm going to look at the very first phrase, which is the top line. And what I'm looking for as I scan across it is the highest note and the lowest note, because that's going to help me decide where my hand needs to be. Now we don't need to worry too much about the lowest note, it's right over here at the end of the phrase. So if I start over here looking at this A, we're going up from there, up to an octave to land on the A an octave higher. So I'm going to start there with my thumb on that first note. Now here we have 4 C's in a row. And if I just keep the same finger on those, I don't really have any scope to move up to the A. So as I go through these 4 C's, I'm going to be mindful that I need to land here on with my thumb so that I can easily get up from the C up to this A. So somewhere along here, if I'm starting here on my thumb as well, somewhere along these 4 C's I need to change finger, and what I like to do is go 3, 2, 1. That's what my hand naturally likes to do, so I'm just going to go with that. 3, 2, 1, and now I'm in position. I can easily reach up to the A. Now we've repeated F here, 2 F's here, and that F leads us down to the B flat. 5 notes. So you would imagine 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but if you recall earlier on, we say we don't like to land on or play a black note with our thumb. It's a little bit awkward. And also it doesn't allow us to easily get to the 2 harmonic intervals, the thirds here that follow. So ideally we want to come over onto this B flat. So our thumb would need to be landing on this C. And then from there, counting backwards, we need to start on this second F with our 4th finger so we can go down. So we're going to change our finger from this F, between these 2 F's as well. So I'm going to go from the C to the F, 3, 5, 3, and then I'm changing to my 4th. So I then can come over onto the B flat. Now to decide, do I want to come over with my 2nd finger? I've got a G underneath it, and I've got 2 notes stepping down from there. So I want to give myself scope for that. So I think it's best if I come over with my third, and then I've got 1 and 3 here, and then 1 and 2 here. And that allows me to keep that nice legato line here, holding that 3. Okay, so 3 and 1 here, going to 2 and 1. Now in that position, if I look at the next phrase, quite a short phrase followed by a little phrase to end, I'm in position really for these notes. I don't have to change. Once I've arrived here, I can just play these notes without changing my hand position at all. I land on this G with my thumb, so I'm going to go over and see, I think if I come over with my second, then I can just play the following little phrase. Okay, so that's all easily under my hand. Second over, and then 1 and 4, it's an interval of a fourth, stepping down. Okay, then looking at here, we've got a little bit of a sequence here. So a sequence is where you have the same pattern of notes played in 2 different places. So this is a very simple sequence. We're just going, okay. I don't need to change position. I'm in the right place to do this. I don't need to move around at all, so I can just use the fingers that are on those notes. But if you're playing a sequence, it's often a good idea to use the same fingers because it helps you to remember the shape of it. So I'm going to go 4 and 2, going down to 3 and 1, and then I'm going to move up and do the same thing. And then here, there's quite a jump, isn't there, between where I land here and coming up to this C. And if I look in this phrase, the highest and lowest notes, we've got the lowest note is a B natural, going up to F, which is this position. So I'll need to come from here up to this position. And then that falls quite naturally under my hand. And then we're just coming back to the original theme. So I'm using the same fingering, changing to my fourth there, third over. I'm playing it through like this, just confirms to me that this fingering works. Okay, so now if I look at the left hand, we're in the key of F, so my first chord in the left hand is just a broken chord of F. So I'm just going to use 5, 3 and 1. Then we're going to a 5, 7, the dominant chord. So that's still under my hand. 4, 1, 2. So here we've got a sixth, an interval of a sixth going to a fifth. So we can just keep our thumb on the upper note, and I'm going to go 1 and 5. And that allows me as well to keep a legato feel, because I can hold that lower note down. I have to repeat the thumb. So I can go from 1 and 5 to 1 and 4. Then for here, I need to move up. And I'm going to use 1 and 2. Let me see now. Yeah, that feels natural. I've got a B to B flat, a B flat to B flat octave. And a series of intervals. So there's lots of options for these harmonic intervals here. So 1 and 5 definitely for the octave. But you could decide to go 1 and 4 here. And then you'd have to change your hand, move your hand up so you can 1 and 5. Now the slur here is between the top 2 notes, so that would suggest you want to be able to go, now going 1, 2 there, thumb to second, is actually, it doesn't feel comfortable. It leads to too much of a stretch, and then you're trying to use your third finger on this, so that doesn't really work. So you could go 5 and 2 here, so your second is on the B flat. And then your thumb comes under to play 1 and 3. When I play it, I find I actually prefer to slur the lower 2 notes, even though there's a slur here joining the upper 2 notes. I think it sounds quite nice. So these two are joined. And my thumb is coming from the B flat down to the A. So those are some options there. You can play around and decide, do you want to use that second on the B flat coming down to the thumb on the A? Or do you want to join the lower two notes? Oops. So continuing on, we've just got a C to C octave, and again here. And then you've got these three notes very close to each other, C, D and E, arriving then back here. So you could, whatever feels comfortable, you could go 5, 4, 2. I think I might prefer to go 1, 2, 3 here. So you have to move either way. And I think these are nice strong fingers, and this is quite a strong little phrase here. And then 1 and 3. And then you're coming back to... So that feels good. So if I was to play through that with that fingering that I've worked out, I could easily, I might find that it doesn't work as well as I hoped it would, and I might need to make some changes. So I would usually put in the fingering that I think will work, play through it a couple of times and really be very conscious of how it feels under my fingers, and if there's anything that's slightly awkward or maybe not working, and keeping in mind that if I need to play a piece at speed, that can affect the fingering too. I might need to be extra careful to make sure that the fingering is very fluid. It's going to help me play faster. So there you have it. I hope that gives you a little more clarity around the fingering. Of course, no two pieces are the same, so each one is going to pose new challenges and questions for you to think about, but hopefully you'll feel a bit more confident about working out your own fingering. And it's not the end of the world if you choose one fingering when another might have been a little bit better. And like everything else, the more you do, the better your feel for it becomes. So do try to make it part the routine of learning new music, and it's really worth it for the effort and the time that it'll save you in the longer term. If this video helped you, please do hit the like button and consider subscribing, and I'll see you soon again, and in the meantime, happy practicing.